into the office. So what are we gonna? What's really gonna change for me on my end? So we'll see what happens.
And where do you work?
I work for a TV station here in Waco. I work for an ABC affiliate.
Okay.
So yeah, I do a lot of the promos and commercial work. So
Okay.
um, they don't necessarily need me at the office, so to speak.
Okay.
All right, we are live on YouTube. Let me get it
Hey,
posted to.
everybody.
Let me get it posted to Facebook here really quick, and then we'll go ahead and start.
Okay.
But so when we get started, I'll do an intro. I'll introduce you, um, and then from there we'll kind of do like the traditional introductory stuff, like we'll got you into music, who you are, a little bit more about yourself, and then we'll go into your new music, what you're working on now, and we'll just kind of run through a series of topics and kind of see where the conversation goes from there.
Gotcha. Will you be spinning any music?
No, not on this podcast. It's just straight conversation.
Gotcha.
And then you pronounce your last name Buller, correct?
That's right. Yeah, good job. Kudos to you for getting it right.
Well, I've I'll say go ahead and say this now because you've been brought up on the podcast at least twice before.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because I had Andy Hall from the infamous String Dusters,
Yeah.
and he brought you up as like just kind of in passing. And then Justin Mason from Justin Mason and the Blue Knight. He,
Okay.
I actually that one I don't think was on the podcast. I think we were just having a conversation. We were talking about fiddle players and stuff like that, and
Uh-huh.
bluegrass, and your name got brought up.
Well, cool. I'm honored.
Yeah, it was, and then I saw your name pop up on the sheet, and I'm like, wait a minute, we've talked about her before. That's awesome.
How's the audio quality? I've got my AirPods in.
Audio's good.
Good.
It's really good. A lot better than some of the podcasts I've had through Zoom.
Okay.
So, all right, we should be good. Let me share this really quick. Group. Boom. All right, awesome. We are good. And if you are ready, I'll do the intro and we'll jump into it.
I'm ready.
All right, awesome. Welcome, everybody, to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we're back at it again with another amazing podcast. Sorry, I've been on a little bit of a break, but I was preparing for a fundraiser I was doing this weekend, so I had to take a few days off. But today, we have a very special guest. We have Becky Buller of the Becky Buller Band. How's it going today, Becky?
That's good, Tom. Good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to get to know you a little bit more, sit down and chat. Bluegrass is, I would probably consider it the newer genre of music that I've recently been getting into because back in 2017, I got invited to go to a bluegrass festival. And from there, just kind of seeing bluegrass in its rawest form of just musicians being there because they want to be there, I was just like, all right, cool. Let's figure out. Let's start diving deeper into this. So,
where was the festival?
It was in Isla Morada. It was the Baygrass Bluegrass Festival.
Okay.
The Florida Keys.
Oh, okay.
They usually do it on Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. So like
okay.
that Sunday before.
Okay, I haven't heard of that one before.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, it's a smaller festival, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun. So, but first off, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Like I said, I really appreciate you giving us the time to sit down and chat. But before we kind of dive deeper into everything that's going on with you, your music, the new album you just released, what's kind of your origin story? What got you into music? What got you started?
Well, I come from a very musical family. My parents met in college when my mom told my dad he was playing cheater chords on the guitar. And it's been all downhill from there. But my family got involved in bluegrass music when I was probably about in kindergarten. My dad had a mandolin, but didn't know what to do with it until they went to the Butterfield Threshing Bee in Butterfield, Minnesota, and they heard a bluegrass band playing, and my dad just really fell in love with the mandolin. Ended up talking to the mandolin player about getting lessons, and through those lessons, they got involved with another couple, started a band called Prairie Grass that they had the entire time I was going to school, and I joined them when I was about 9 years old. I started learning how to play the fiddle, and just so that I could sing in their band. Because in a bluegrass band, everybody has to play something, and so I said, well, you don't have a fiddle, I'll learn that so I can be in the band. And then we played regionally around Minnesota, northern Iowa, got as far as the geographical center of South Dakota. We played on a buffalo farm, got paid in a buffalo hide and a cook stove.
Oh.
But it was a good way to grow up, and I have a lot of really great memories from that time.
Awesome. So you grew up in Minnesota. How did you kind of find your way down to Tennessee?
Well, when I was 16, there was an album that came out by a band called Lou Reed, Terry Baucom, and Carolina, and it was called Carolina Moon. And they got a man named Jack Tottle to do the liner notes for the album because the bass player had been through the program at East Tennessee State University that Jack Tottle founded. And when I read those liner notes and found out there was a place where I could go to get credit for playing bluegrass music, I told my parents I was going. And again, I was 16 and I was a homebody, and they said, yeah, right. And I'm like, no, I'm going to do this. And so we ended up making a 2-year plan to get me down there. I ended up doing post-secondary option for college, which is something, I don't know if they do this other places, but in Minnesota, if you're supposed to be in high school, but you qualified to go to college, you can, get that college credit. And so I did that for a year, about an hour away from home. And then I went 24 hours away from home down to Johnson City, Tennessee, and finished up my degree at East Tennessee State University.
Nice. That's awesome. And so you're also a multi-instrumentalist. I kind of take it that the fiddle was your first instrument that you learned, or?
Well, technically the piano was my first instrument, and I started that when I was 5. Okay. And you couldn't tell it now that I played for as long as I did, because I've let that fall by the wayside. But fiddle is my main instrument. I play clawhammer, banjo, and some guitar too, and then I kind of dog paddle on a whole lot of other instruments.
I see the big old upright behind you, and it reminds me of my dad's, except my dad's story for his upright is kind of funny. He found it in the bottom of a church, and like with a broken neck. I don't know. So, and it was always one of those things that it was just kind of decoration until one New Year's Eve, he broke it out and actually started playing it. And I was like, oh, I didn't know you actually knew how to play it. And he's like, yeah, I used to play it for years. And I'm like, okay. So, so you just released a new album back in October, correct?
Right? Yes, October 30th.
October 30th. Yep. It's called Distance in Time. What's kind of the story behind this album? How long have you kind of been working on it? All that fun stuff.
Well, this is actually the fastest that we've been able to turn an album around. We got in the studio last November and cut a bunch of the tracks and finished up. I actually cut the very last tracks for this the day before the world shut down. So the plan behind this album was to stay rooted in tradition but reach further forward. We have a variety of styles of bluegrass on here, from very traditional to very progressive. Most of the album is cut with bluegrass instrumentation, mandolin, fiddle, guitar, banjo, um, and but we do have drums on one cut. We got Chris Brown and his Drums of Renown from the Sam Bush Band to come in and cut drums on a song called Salt and Light. It's a gospel song. Got the Isaacs to come in and sing harmonies on that too, which was just awesome. Their angelic voices.
Yeah. That's, it's interesting because it took me a few years of like listening to bluegrass for somebody to tell me why putting drums on a bluegrass, or if you're like a traditional bluegrass fan, why drums are not a thing that they want to hear. And it was just like, I mean, I get it, but you can't get mad at a band if they just kind of want to push the limitations of.
Well, it was a first for me, and it was really fun. And we got the track back, and we're like, "Is that us? Really? Can we have one of those all the time?" It was fun, and Chris is amazing, and it gave the song such an amazing groove.
Awesome. And so when you started working on this album, what was kind of the process as far as song selection? Did you write specifically for this album, or had you always kind of been writing and then you just started picking songs for the album?
Well, I always have a backlog of songs, and there was one song particular that didn't make the last album that my producer insisted had to be on this album. That was called You Come Around. And I wrote that one with Jeff Hyde and John Pennell, and got to sing it with Ronnie Bowman, which was awesome. Because I've been in love with Ronnie Bowman's voice since I was about 16. So really, I just put together a wish list of songs, and then got together with my producer Stephen Mogen, and we went through and kind of haggled over what was going to make the record. And most of it's I mean, I'm happy with all the songs on here, and there were a few that I wish could have made it, but we cut it down to 13. We've got 2 cover songs on here, and the rest are songs that I either wrote or co-wrote.
Gotcha. As far as like writing goes, what's your creative process?
Oh man. Well, these days, because I have so many plates spinning, I have to do a lot of co-writing. I had a co-writing session this morning with my friend Rick Lang, and it just felt so good to get back in the saddle with writing. And I have to, it's because I have so many things going, I've got to create that time, and that appointment gets me into the right headspace to write. And then usually after that, I'll be all jazzed up about writing and work on some of my own stuff too. But it's hard being a band leader and a mom and a teacher. I do private music lessons too. It's a lot going on. And so unfortunately, writing takes a back seat, and it's one of the things I love to do the most.
Yeah, I get it. Are you very spontaneous with your writing, or are you are you a musician that if you say, because your life is so jam-packed with everything else, being a mother, managing the band, being a teacher, that you tell yourself, okay, I've got from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. free, that's when I can write. Are you very structured, or are you very like...
No, I am not structured, and I really probably need to be. I have to kind of let the muse move me. And I guess the most structured that I get is to set those writing appointments with other writers.
Yeah. But at least with that, if it ends up being a good writing session, you're going to be jazzed about writing, and you're probably going to be a lot more free flowing.
Yeah. Yes,
ideas.
definitely.
So that day, it's just kind of like always have your phone by you, or always have your pen and paper. So that's really interesting. Um, were you concerned about releasing this album during a pandemic? Like,
Absolutely, yes.
was there thoughts
Yes.
about because like music nowadays, I've talked to a lot of musicians where they're kind of the mindset that releasing single, especially during the pandemic, because they don't know how long it's going to be before they can get out and tour and all that stuff. So they want to stay on top of the Spotify algorithm as long as they can. So they had plans for like a EP and LP, whatever it was, and instead they just started releasing singles so that they could get longer legs off of it. Was there
Yeah.
thought about doing that instead, or because bluegrass is more of a traditional style and with albums and EPs and LPs is
Yeah, we didn't talk about releasing singles. We did release three singles
hmm,
from this album, The Barber's Fiddle back in March, and then More Heartless Attack. Let's see, when was that? At the end of May, I think.
mm-hmm.
And then Tell the Truth, Shame the Devil, that came out in July. So we have been stringing things along, and we had been planning for the album to come out in July, but we pushed it back first to September. And then as those gigs disappeared, we tried to pair the album release with a gig. But of course all those disappeared, so then we pushed it back as far as we could, for the label to feel comfortable, and it came out October 30th.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And like right now, I kind of feel like, or end of October was a really good time to start releasing music because it felt like we were going to start seeing the return of live music and things were going to start opening back up. And then, as we talked about before we jumped on here,
Mm-hmm.
now you're starting to see all the numbers skyrocket. And it's
Right.
like, well, probably not,
Stay hunkered down. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have about 350 copies of my CD here at my house. And if anybody's interested, you can get them on my website.
Have you,
Yeah.
did you ever, have you ever experimented with like pressing vinyl or do you primarily just do CDs?
Well, I have not, because my audience is not the demographic that normally buys vinyl,
Mm-hmm.
and so we've stuck with CDs for now, because bluegrass fans still like to have the CDs.
Okay. Gotcha.
So the bluegrass fans are some of the last to click over to the new technology.
Well, no. I'm talking about vinyl records.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh,
know. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, as like they're, switching over to downloads is
Yeah.
even, I mean, you've got some people that'll buy both. They'll do the
Mm-hmm.
downloads and they'll buy a CD.
Yeah.
Bluegrass fans still like to read the liner notes.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, I haven't been playing to crowds that usually buy the vinyl.
Okay.
So we haven't experimented with that yet.
Gotcha. Because I was, kind of doing this throughout the pandemic. It's interesting to see how like what was old is now becoming new again.
Right.
Like vinyl, and I mean vinyl's been making a resurgence probably for the last 2 years. Not,
Mm-hmm.
specifically more now than usual, but I've even started seeing that like old cassettes, like
Yeah.
bands are starting to print on cassettes again. And it's like that is the worst media. Stop.
I have all these mixtapes that I just cannot throw away because there's so many memories connected to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So you also released a music video, am I correct, for Barber's Fiddle?
We did. Yes.
Okay. What,
Yeah.
what was it about that song that you thought about doing a music video for it?
Well, it just had a great story. So it just lent itself to a music video. And we filmed it right here in Manchester, Tennessee, my adopted hometown, and filmed it at Cutshaw's Classic Barbershop. So if you're in town and you need a trim, go check out Cutshaw's Classic Barbershop. right in the center of town. and and this song was based on the lives of three fiddlin' barbers.
Mm.
We used the name of Mr. Gene Boyd and used his barbershop, the Star Barbershop in Bristol, Virginia, as our setting for the song. But it was also inspired by Mr. Billy Womack from Woodbury, Tennessee, and an anonymous barber that people come up to me and they tell me stories when I'm out on the road. And someone came up and told me the story that became the skeleton of this song. Well, I was at Dollywood, and someone just came up and told me this story of this fiddlin' barber that had tried to make it on the road and just couldn't make a living at it. So he came back home and took up barbering. So, you know, everything in a songwriter's life is material, and there are ideas everywhere. You just got to keep your ears open. So I'm always doing that. I'm always writing ideas down on the list on my phone, and got to email that list to myself every so often, just in case my phone dies. I need to do that again.
Yeah, I got you completely.
Yeah.
Do you have plans for another music video after that, or is it?
We do. We got a little bit behind,
Okay.
just with COVID and everything, but we're planning to put out a music video for "Don't Look Back," which is the lead-off track on the record, and so I'm going to be filming that here in a couple weeks.
Awesome. Well, hopefully, assuming that they don't shut everything
Right.
down. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But no, that's awesome. You know, it's always awesome to see all these music videos that people are producing and releasing, like from like independent artists all the way up to the big name artist. You know, just kind of seeing the whole gamut of music videos, and some of the creativity is just amazing. And like just what some people are able to do with just the resources they have at hand. It's really awesome.
Yeah, we've been, as my band has been able to do a couple Quarren Jam
Yeah.
videos, so people can see those on our Facebook or on our YouTube channel.
Awesome. So you brought up the band. How did the band kind of come together? Was it always the idea of you having your own band, or did you originally think maybe you just kind of be doing your own solo acoustic stuff or solo bluegrass project, or like what was kind of the idea behind the band originally?
Well, I I like the band. I like having the people around me, and more so than doing the solo stuff.
Mhm.
So when I came out with my Tween Earth and Sky record in 2014, I I kind of painted myself into a corner, and I finally had to become my own band leader.
Yeah.
I had been working for other people up to that point,
Yeah.
but I needed to be out there to sell the record, um, and so the band came together and had a bunch of different people come through. But currently the lineup is Nate Lee on the mandolin and Professor Dan Boner on guitar, Ned Lubarecki, the 2018 IBMA Banjo Player of the Year on banjo, and Daniel Harden on the bass. And they're a lot of fun to work with, and they just make my job so much easier.
Nice. And that how long's that current lineup been together?
About 4 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the band's been together longer, like the band as the Becky Buller band's been together longer than that, I take it.
Oh, well, 5 years.
5 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's uh that's cool. That well, you know, it's really awesome to see or have a band that stays together in its entirety, like without like minor lineup changes, because I feel like that's a lot more common this day and age where
Yeah, people don't stay as long as they used to,
yeah.
it seems
I
like.
mean, unless you're like out nationally touring every day and got like big record deals, big tour deal, you know, just like you're able to like really sustain yourself, and you know, and they're just like creatively fulfilled during the project.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance of too many gigs and not enough gigs.
Yeah.
And for me, and my band, we've pretty much remained weekend warriors. We all have our main gig at home. You know, my main gig is I'm Romy's mama, and then doing the teaching on the side. And but like Professor Dan is the head of the East Tennessee State University Bluegrass program.
Oh
wow. Nate has a thriving uh, um, teaching business. He does a lot of one-on-one teaching. Ned does a lot of teaching and works also for Sirius XM satellite radio. And then Daniel Harden works at Jack Daniels here in Lynchburg, Tennessee.
Yeah.
So there hasn't been the pressure to have so many gigs, like to be on the road all the time. We just can't do that. But I'm grateful we've been able to, maintain the number of gigs that we have. And so, usually we do about 40 dates a year or so in a normal time.
What I was going to ask next, talking about your gigs. And the question was going to be, when there isn't a global pandemic, how many shows do you usually play?
Yeah.
Now, are those out of the roughly 40 shows a year, are they all primarily Tennessee, or do you get out for, like, how far do you usually go for shows?
We've gone all over the place, from coast to coast. Last year we were up in Washington State, and then the next week, literally, I was I had to get like map. I took a picture of the map in Washington State, and then the next weekend I was in Rhode Island, so I took a picture of that. The pin drop, and made a Facebook post about it. But yeah, literally within a week, I went from coast to coast. Last July, not this past July, obviously I've been home. I was home, but in 2019. So yeah, we go all over the place. We don't get to play in Tennessee all that much because it's there's so much music here. And most of what we do has been out and about.
You go down to Florida a lot, especially during the winter times?
We haven't. I used to play in Florida quite a bit. I haven't made it down there with my own band. Hopefully we'll make it down there soon.
Yeah, because they've got a lot of bluegrass music that happens during the winter.
They do.
I was talking to Justin Mason, and he was telling me, like, from January until about March, it's like the winter haven for bluegrass players, just because there's always a show, or there's always a festival or something going on from about January to March.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, that's awesome. So you've been, for the last 7 months, you've been working on your own project. What's now that your album's released and it's been out for 2 weeks, right? Is that? I don't even know.
I'm losing track of time too.
Week and a half, right? Yeah, it's been about a week and a half. What's going through your mind now that the album's out and there's nothing left to do but promote? And what's going on right now?
Yeah, well, I'm grateful to the people who have already ordered physical copies online, and you can do that at BeckyBuller.com, and Buller is spelled just like it sounds, B as in boy, ULLER, BeckyBuller.com. And there's links on the front page of the website that will get you to all the digital outlets, and a link to order the physical copy of the CD, which I will sign for you. So I'm just thinking about that and hoping that we can sell some of these copies of it, and looking forward to getting back on the road whenever we can. Right now, our first date for 2021 is February 13th up in Minnesota.
Okay. Ooh, that's gonna be a rough time to be in Minnesota.
I know, but
I'm sure I don't have to tell you that.
I know, it's my home country, and so I'm looking forward to going back there if we're able. Hopefully we'll be able.
I have because I'm from Chicago originally. I live in Texas now, but unless I have a very strict rule, unless it's for a family holiday or for a holiday or a death, I don't go to Chicago between the months of November and about April.
Yeah, that's
I
smart.
just don't do it anymore just because
Yeah.
it is so cold, and I haven't lived in Chicago since 2009. So it's been 11 years I've gotten it out of my system. I,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
have the
I
love.
I have lost my antifreeze.
Yeah.
My husband makes fun of me because I get chilled real easily,
Yeah.
and he's a polar bear. He likes to keep the house cold.
Yeah. My, my mom's the exact same way because when I left to go to school, they moved to South Florida. And so now it's just kind of like my mom's says every time I talk to her, "Yep, I'm never moving back to Chicago."
Uh-huh.
Even if I had to go live with your sister, it would not happen. And it's like, huh? I mean, I'm not arguing with you. I wouldn't move back to Chicago either, but um, it's just one of those things where it's like once you leave and kind of get out of the mentality of the cold ruggedness of the winters, it's kind of hard to go back.
Yeah, people in my hometown will walk around with their coats open, or without a coat at all when it gets up to zero.
Yeah. Wow. Because when I was actually when I graduated college, there was a point there where I was gonna move up to like North Dakota, like up in
Oh,
Wisconsin.
yeah.
And it at that point it was July, and this was like during the fracking boom. So like everything
Hmm.
up there was insanely expensive. And I was talking to my dad. He's like, "Do you really want to live there?" And I'm like, I mean, it's kind of cool. He's like, "Just let me tell you this. It's warm and nice now, but wait until October, November hits,
Uh-huh.
and it's not going to be so nice anymore." I'm like,
Yeah.
ah, okay. So,
Yeah.
needless to say, that didn't last more than a couple of weeks. So,
Uh-huh.
but, so what's keeping you motivated right now? Like, obviously, everything's kind of like dim, and it's like, I don't know if we're going to be playing shows at all anytime soon, but what's
Mhm.
keeping you motivated right now?
Well, the lessons I've been teaching have been really helping me. I appreciate the people that have invited me to work with them and help them realize their musical goals. But they're helping me because it gives me something to get up and get ready for,
Yeah,
and so I really appreciate them, and I hope they're having fun.
yeah. How
Mhm.
often do you do your lessons or your classes?
I teach on Tuesdays and Wednesdays,
Okay. So, okay. And
so
is
we
it
and it's weekly
okay,
with
weekly?
folks.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And it's is it like a multi-person class, or is it usually just more of a one-on-one type thing?
I haven't ventured into trying to do any multi-person events.
Yeah.
I see other people doing it, and I need to do it at some point. But everything I've been doing right now is one-on-one.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So I did want to kind of talk about the IBMA because I've had a few different bluegrass musicians on here, but we've never really went in and talked about it. But you've won a few awards through them. For the people
Mhm.
that aren't familiar with bluegrass and the IBMA, what kind of is the International Bluegrass Music Association?
Well, the IBMA is the trade organization that represents all of bluegrass music. And they have a conference once a year where everybody gets together and talks about the business of bluegrass music. And they hold the award show during that week. So that all happened the last week of September.
Okay.
And it usually happens in Raleigh, North Carolina. At least for the last several years, that's where it's been. This year, it was all online,
Yeah.
which was different.
Yeah.
But I hear that they had really good numbers, though, so that's exciting.
Yeah. That's my only concern about all the online stuff having good numbers is I have the fear of even when things start to go back to normal, they're gonna start doing a lot more things online, and it scares me a little bit.
Yeah, I it's just not the same as being in person.
Yeah,
And
it,
it's
it it's that
I
that energy. I think it's the energy.
Yes, I think that. Yes, I think you're right. Yeah, it's well put.
But you did win. You were the first female to win Fiddle Player of the Year through, I'm guessing, through IBMA, correct?
Yes, yes.
What year was that you?
That was 2016.
Okay. And what for that award? What is that kind of based on? Like, is it just like how did that? What's that award kind of based on, or how do they kind of decide a award?
Well, it's based on what recordings you've put out during the year and also touring.
Okay. Okay.
So, and it's voted on by the professional membership of the IBMA.
Gotcha, gotcha. I was just kind of curious. I had a feeling that's kind of what it was, but I didn't know if it was like just music, your original music, or touring. Like so I figured I'd ask.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So, what other than music, what do you do to kind of get away? Like if you need
That,
to,
that is a really good question, and it's something that I need to explore
yeah,
further because I need a hobby. I really do. So if anybody out there has some suggestions for me, I'd appreciate it if you'd post them in the comments below.
yeah,
Because I music is all consuming for me, and
yeah,
some days it just chews me up and spits me out. And I do enjoy baking.
yeah,
I need to do some of that, especially with Thanksgiving coming up.
yeah,
I need to be doing some of that. I always make Grandma Malloy's famous roll recipe
yeah.
for that. That's my contribution to the Thanksgiving meal.
Nice.
I can knit lopsided washcloths and endless scarves. I enjoy reading
Yeah,
and getting out to hike. We got out this weekend to hike, and that just felt so good. We went to Old Stone Fort archaeological area, which is here in Manchester, Tennessee. It's a 2,000-year-old built by the Woodland Indians
okay.
for ceremonial purposes.
Yeah,
Um, and it's a beautiful park. If you're ever in Manchester, get a haircut at Cutshaw's Classic
yeah.
Barbershop and go to Old Stone Fort State Park.
Gotcha. Awesome. That's you know, hobbies are always good. Like especially when your life is so, I don't want to say one dimensional, but like you focus so heavily on one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of having that one thing that like even for like an hour once a week just to kind of take your mind off of something, you know.
Yeah.
It it's it's really interesting for me because this will maybe make you happy. Ever since I started listening to bluegrass music, I've always been fascinated with fiddle players.
Okay.
Like just listening to them and just kind of like the feel and the vibe and the energy it brings to the music. Like
Mm-hmm.
just I don't know. For me, it's just like, all right, awesome. I love a good fiddle player. And since the pandemic started, I've been trying to find a left-handed fiddle,
Uh-huh.
but I've come to realize that that's not going to be as easy as I wanted to because it goes back to the old viol or like the violin and orchestra. If you tried to learn how to play left-handed, they would beat that out of you and teach you how to play right-handed because
Uh-huh.
everything in the orchestra has to be symmetrical.
Oh, okay.
And so, you know, they didn't like having left-handed fiddles or violins just wasn't a thing that was very common.
Yeah.
And I was talking to somebody that lives, I know she's from Texas, but she doesn't live in Texas anymore. And she's like, well, you could just take a right-handed fiddle and string it backwards. And I'm like, that makes too much sense. Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah. So have you tried it yet?
No, I haven't actually gotten to found a right-handed fiddle because I need a full so everything that I have or everything that I've seen has been for like smaller like for beginners or children,
Uh-huh.
everything that
Oh,
I've
okay.
seen. Yeah. And so I need there's a pawn shop that actually has a lot of musical
Okay.
instruments. So I go in there every once in a while and see.
Okay.
So that is the plan of
So
attack.
you're on the lookout for one yet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, it's just a matter of, it doesn't really matter to me right now if it's good, a good fiddle versus bad fiddle. I just kind of want to learn how to, I just want to learn how to play. And
Right.
once I get notes down and all that stuff, then I'll start worrying about, oh, does this sound good
Mm-hmm.
versus not sound good, you know?
I have the hardest time watching a left-handed fiddler because everything's backwards,
Yeah.
and it makes my eyes cross. And I know some really good left-handed fiddlers too. I mean, they're insanely good, and I have to close my eyes when I listen to them.
Well, my original plan was to get a right-handed fiddle and just learn how to play backwards.
Uh-huh.
And then my buddy who, or I have like my audio engineer and another guy that helps us do the live and amplified stuff. They're both musicians, and they told me how asinine that would be because nobody could teach me how to play if I learned how to play backwards.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like, okay, fine. You win. I won't learn how to play backwards. Although that would be very unique and interesting, you know.
Well, I mean, if are you able to pick it up on your own, do you think, or will you need lessons?
Um, right now, I think initially just I don't know yet because it's been
Yeah.
so long since I've tried to learn how to play an instrument. Like
Oh,
I
okay.
I haven't played an instrument since the fourth grade
Okay.
fourth grade band, so I don't know, but
Hmm.
we'll see. Like if I
Okay.
need lessons, I will definitely reach out to you and
Oh,
see.
yeah. Well, I wasn't asking for that. I
Yeah,
was just, if you are able to pick it up on your own backwards,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
if you think you're able to kind of work on it on your own.
Well, and that for me, that wasn't the most optimal idea,
Hmm.
but it was just like if all the left-handed fiddles I saw were like 4 to 5 times more expensive than a
Oh,
right
yeah.
fiddle, and I was
Right.
just like, I'd rather pay like at least now learning, I'd rather pay a quarter of the price just to see A if it's something that I can pick up
Yeah.
versus investing all this money into something and then
Yeah.
trying to learn it backwards. I was going to set myself up for failure.
Yeah. Well, and a few lessons when you first get started is very helpful. And the fiddle is one of the most difficult instruments to learn because of the bow.
Yeah, because the bow has its own. You have your
Yeah.
own technique with the bow.
Right, right. And the bow, it smells fear and it will run away.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, I gotcha. I mean, it's just one of those things. Like I want to like whenever I go to these bluegrass festivals, I'm always like one of the guys that I work with. He could pick up the upright and just kind of jump in and fake his way through a jam set. Well, not fake his way, but make his way through a jam session because he
Hmm.
knows how to play bass and he played a little bit of upright growing up, like just through his musical journey. And like just being able to participate in a jam session is really all I want to accomplish at this point.
Hmm. Hmm.
So even if that means just learning a couple of the standards
Yeah.
and jumping into it. So
Yeah. You can do it.
yeah, thank you. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that. I'm determined now. You know, it's kind of been one of those things where I wish that I hadn't dropped out of the fourth grade school band or whatever it was
Hmm.
because, but then back when I was in fourth grade, 9 years old, 10 years old, however old I was, I wasn't going to practice. Like I
Yeah.
was busy playing baseball and doing other things. I wasn't, just wasn't one of the things that I was going to do. So,
Yeah.
but I don't want to keep you too much longer because it is Monday night. It is, I don't know, later. But what's kind of the plan moving forward with your music, pandemic pending?
Right. Getting back on the road. And like I mentioned before, Our next thing is February 13th up in Red Wing, Minnesota, and we'll have more about that as we get closer to it. If we're able to go, if if COVID willing, we'll be headed up there. I'm going to do a social media takeover at the Boot this Thursday night at 7:30. So please check that out on the Boots Facebook page and also their Instagram. And Ned Lubarecki is going to be joining me for that. We're going to do a duo set. So please check that out. And let me think, what else? Just keep an eye on my social media, and I'll post things as they come up. And we have things on the books for next summer too. So hopefully this is gonna hopefully we'll be able to get back to some sort of normal. I'm not digging the new normal.
No, and definitely not. I mean, I'm enjoying being able to go to shows and not being shoulder to shoulder with people. But when it's one of those things where, like, if I happen to know the manager of the band or whoever, and they're calling me saying, "Hey, are you almost here? If not, don't even bother coming because we're already at capacity or we're very close to capacity." It's just kind of one of those things where it's like, that's not fun. Like,
well, and even then, people are nervous about getting into crowds anymore. So are people going to come out to shows? Are they willing to do that? And then you've got other people that are like, they want to go, they want to hear music, and they're willing to go. So it's just, what's the right answer?
Absolutely.
I wish I knew.
Absolutely. Where's one place that you haven't had a chance yet to play that you really want to play?
Austin City Limits.
Okay. Just down the road from us.
Hey.
So it's interesting because I was listening to I was watching a live stream with a musician from here in Waco. She lives up in Kansas City now, and she'll do like trivia every night or every Wednesday on her live stream. And Austin City Limits was I think this was the live stream for like right around Willie Nelson's birthday, I think it was. And I think that's what it was. It was Willie Nelson having something, or had a part of making Austin City Limits what it is.
Okay.
Like he was, But so that's my Austin City Limits story.
Okay.
It's a little weird. Sorry about that.
You're fine.
Where are you at creatively right now? Are you already working towards your next album, or are you, because you're always writing, are you already thinking about your next album, or where are you kind of at creatively right now?
Oh, well, I haven't started thinking towards that next record yet, because I'm busy. I'm taking care of this one that just came out.
I gotcha.
Yeah, so really just focusing on doing the publicity for this and this album and the teaching and trying to write. I'm trying to get things calmed down so that I can do some more writing. As I mentioned before, that's one of my very favorite things to do, is to write.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's always interesting to see how musicians kind of transition out from an album. Like once they release it, some musicians, they like to just kind of let the album live for a little bit, and then they start to worry about their next project, or the album's out, let's start recording the next. It just kind of depends on where their priority is.
Right. So I'm not to the next album yet. not quite yet. Soon.
Awesome. So before I let you go, I have one very important question to ask you. Pineapple pizza, yes or no?
No.
Okay.
I
I
love Canadian bacon pizza
Yeah,
without the pineapple.
okay. Actually, I
But
Canadian bacon. You get like the meat lovers pizza with Canadian bacon on it. Like,
well,
pretty good
that's
stuff.
good too. When I was a kid, we would always get a half and half Canadian bacon, half sausage green olive, because
Okay,
my dad loves sausage green olive.
okay.
But we'd never get the pineapple on it. I mean, I'll eat the pineapple if it's there, but I prefer
No,
just
yeah.
straight up Canadian bacon. And we'd
You've
get that from Jake's Pizza in my hometown, St. James, Minnesota.
you're only confirming my theory. Pineapple pizza is a coastal and southern thing
Okay.
because like Midwest, it's like no, just give us the cheese and the meat and we're good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to be part of the experiment.
yeah, that it's that was one of the things. I don't know where that came from originally, but I think I was doing a interview that was getting a little like I could tell the person was nervous as
Uh-huh.
we were talking, and I just threw that question out there, and it threw him so far off the center that it just kind of loosened him up, and I was just like, all right, cool, now we
Well,
can.
let me ask you this one. Duck duck gray duck or duck duck goose?
It was always duck duck goose.
Okay.
Yeah.
I I wonder if it was just my hometown that we did duck duck gray duck.
I'm trying to remember, but no, for us it was always duck duck goose. And
Yeah, for us it was all these different colored ducks,
okay,
and then gray duck, and
yeah,
that person was it. So yeah,
yeah.
I'm wondering. I'm pretty sure it was my hometown.
Maybe.
I
You know,
know.
like I remember at a point where we'd change it up so it wasn't always duck, duck, goose, but it was always like something, something, something goose. So
Uh-huh.
we'd change it up to just kind of mess with people. And it
Uh-huh.
would be like elephant, frog leg, giraffe, goose, just try and mess with them a little bit. But
Uh-huh.
it like, it was always duck, duck, goose.
Mhm.
So cool. Um, so where can everybody kind of find you online? Where can they find your music?
You can get to everything more about me, all our social media pages, by going to beckybuller.com. And that's BECKY, B as in boy, ULLER, beckybuller.com. And thank you all in advance for checking it out. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I had a chance to listen to the album. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Like I'd mentioned, I've been just diving into bluegrass a lot more, and it's really like just seeing the wide like you when you listen to bluegrass or when you think of bluegrass, you think of one specific type and sound where it's like you got the banjo, you got the mandolin, you got the fiddle, and then maybe you'll have a flat picker in there, and and that's kind of like the general makeup. And then you really start diving deep into bluegrass, and it's like nope, you can have like a whole genre and completely different sounds, and then you've got like
Mhm.
your punk and bluegrass, you got like traditional bluegrass, you got your experimental bluegrass, and it's
Mhm.
just it like just all the subgenres within one
Yeah.
genre is really
It's
awesome.
a great big family tree.
Yeah.
There's a lot
Uh,
of branches on it.
yeah. And like any family tree, some parts don't like other parts. It's when I heard that, like I was at the Baygrass Bluegrass Festival one year, and I was talking to one of the friends that I had started making after being there for 4 or 5 years, and he's like, "Oh, you're working with this band? Yeah, we met him last night, and we're gonna do an acoustic session with them." He's like, "Well, they're not real bluegrass, right?" And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, they have a drum player," and I'm like, "Oh, geez, here we go again.
Yeah.
I'm not going down
Yeah.
this rabbit. I'm not
Yeah.
going down this rabbit hole." So, yeah,
Yeah. There bluegrass has its purists, and that's okay. I hope we can all get along.
yeah, and I'm especially once this pandemic's over. It's just kind of like All right. I can't wait to get back to that first festival and just like enjoy the moment because,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, we're
last,
we're created for community.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I felt like I took the last one a little bit for granted. It was just kind of like,
Mhm.
I've been here before. We'll be here next year. So I'm not like, well, not that I'm not as jazzed, but it's just kind of like, I felt like I took it for granted.
Mhm.
So,
I totally understand.
yeah. But once again, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. I really appreciate you giving us the time to sit down here and chat. Um, can you hit them one more time with the website where they can find your
Sure.
music?
Tom, thank you for having me. The website is beckybuller.com. That's beckybuller.com. And Buller is spelled just like it sounds, B as in boy, Uller.
All right, awesome. Well, once again, thank you so